Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us again here at Earth and Sky, each of you here in person and those of you online as well. We've been talking the last few weeks about the ancient Toltec wisdom, the 4 agreements, and the path to freedom.
Basically. Didn't we redo all 4?
There are, once you know what the agreements are,
okay.
Then we have to look into recognizing how do we break the agreements of what we have been living with in our lives that has been the illusion that created the lie of the existence that we've been living under because we weren't really awake. We
you can explain
really
that, right?
aware. I think that's exactly what we'll be getting into a bit throughout
this. Let's explain this, yes.
So there's a thing in this book that Don Miguel Ruiz references as domestication. And that is a word that I always shy from.
Because she doesn't like to do dishes and she doesn't like to vacuum.
And I think there's a thing that often happens though within all cultures, really, especially in the modern age.
Well, yeah.
Where we tend to go into this state of domestication and where we lose our childlike wonder, where we start to live under the illusion of the judge, the victim, and the belief system that has been with us from the time that we were raised. Can you explain a bit to what domestication is?
Yeah, well, so domestication would be that I think it's an interesting way to encompass the idea of what happens to us, which I really had never thought much about, in the idea of to be domesticated. If you think of like an animal being domesticated, what does that mean? That means they get used to being indoors, dealing with us, having a job, or you know what I mean, relying on us to be fed, but loving us, and you know what I mean. There's all of these interactions and expectations that are put on a domesticated animal.
Yes.
We do the exact same thing to our children. Mm-hmm. So you're supposed to be more nice to your elders. Like even the good ones, you know what I mean? Like even the good things that we push down on our kids is still a way of domesticating them to our societal ideas of what a person should be. So you need to not cry when you're out. You need to not punch people. You need to not, you know what I mean? There's all of these things that we should do, all of these things we shouldn't do. Each family has their own unique niche of, these things are more important than these. They have to have chores. They have to do they have to do laundry at this age. They can only watch certain movies up to a certain thing because they're not ready for it. There's all of these things. And when those domestic realities, when you go to church, this is what you are supposed to believe. This is what God is telling you need to believe in. This is what's going to happen, after all of these things that are pushed on. And it's done out of love in most cases, done out of love and caring, but it's done out of a way of you structure their world. You give them this domesticated world that they are now living in. But the problem with that idea is it wasn't theirs. So the world I grew up in, yes, is different than somebody else's, which makes it's unique in a way, but at the same time, but I never got to say, well, no, I think that's right, because I was a child. Mm-hmm. I never got to say, wait a minute, I don't actually believe that yet, or I don't want to believe that, or I actually have a belief that doesn't go with that, with that set of ideals. And that's that being domesticated as an idea. And I think that's it's an interesting term to kind of coin.
Yes.
Forcing, and I say forcing in a kind way, but forcing your ideals, your thoughts, and what you think the world is on the children that you're raising.
That's a very interesting point. And one of the things that really shows how we can see this, I believe, is when you look at children that are maybe 2, 3, maybe even 4 years old, there's a certain sense of childlike wonder that they often have. They'll play, they smile, they're figuring out, there's this curiosity where they're trying to understand everything. They're delving into everything. They may fall at times and get hurt, but they bounce back up. They don't linger on it. They're not crying a long time.
Right.
The day after, maybe let's say they skinned their knee. The next day, they're no longer thinking about that.
Oh, like 10 minutes later. Yeah, it's like, okay, I'm good, thanks.
Exactly, because they're living in the now. And at that age, they're not worried about, what am I going to play with tomorrow? Or what am I going to do tomorrow? What should I be thinking about in the future? Because they're living here in the now.
Yeah.
And it's that very interesting thing that we notice as children will start to play pretending they're adults. Maybe a child wants to say, I'm going to be the doctor. I'm going to be the lawyer. They take on the different hats, fireman or whatever. You'll see their faces change and they become very serious.
Oh, yeah.
They tend to lose the smile. They tend to take a different posture and go into this very serious. Things matter. I'm worried a little bit and I need to make sure.
Yeah,
you see.
Absolutely. Because it's like, okay, what are we going to do? I'll be the doctor. Okay, ready? It's like, wait, what?
Exactly.
But that's exactly what they do.
And so that is showing at that very young age, they're already determining, what am I going to need to look like? How will I express myself as an adult? It won't be with a smile. It won't be with this playful curiosity.
If I'm going to mirror these large versions of me, the one thing that's for sure is I'm going to have to be very serious.
Exactly. So how do we come back to the state of being able to enjoy our lives as we are adults? Being able to bring back that childlike wonder, being able to play again and having fun with whatever those chores are that we have to do. One of the things that we need to recognize with that is, how do we let go of these assumptions that we have, that we've made?
Which was the second agreement.
The third, yes. Don't make assumptions.
Yes.
And learning to be impeccable with your words.
Yeah.
Really also to yourself. So often I think people don't think about what words they're saying to themselves. There are old tapes and old patterns that play in the head. And most of the time, those are things that you heard as a child.
When you were being domesticated.
Exactly. And those same things that you don't want to pass on to your children, far too often you end up saying and not realizing even that you're saying it because of that judge that lives in your head. And even if you try so hard not to put that on the children, they're mirroring the example of who you are.
Yeah, you can't not teach them by what you do, because what you do is what they think, oh, well, they're the ones that would know, so I will follow that example.
Exactly. Exactly. So the first step.
I was just saying now. If domestication is what we learn as we get older, and you know what I mean. So if we become domesticated, what is it? Being free, I guess, would be
exactly
if you're doing it from the point of view of the child.
Coming back to freedom.
Okay.
When children are really small, there's a lot of freedom that they have.
Yeah,
they can run around the house. They're picking things up. That's why we childproof things, so that they don't hurt themselves.
See, that's domestication. Childproof. See?
Exactly. That's the first part of it.
Yeah, that's right.
So what we want to do to undomesticate ourselves is to figure out, how do I have personal freedom? It doesn't mean you just run wild and run amok and don't think about anything, because that's not going to create the life that you want.
Because I was all in. I was like, yes.
We don't become wild horses.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I was gung-ho. So tell me.
But the first step to personal freedom is awareness. We must become aware of what those voices in our head are doing.
Yeah.
What is that critical judge thing in our brain?
Yeah.
Where do we have those thoughts of being the victim or being the martyr, feeling like things are out of your control? You can't do anything about it because of this, or because of that person, you're not allowed, or whatever those things are.
Or you have those base fears that are telling you, don't do because this bad thing might happen, or you might have to do something that you're afraid of. And so
Exactly. And the voice of that judge and the voice of the victim form through the set of beliefs that you have created that really weren't you creating. It was those beliefs and the system of your view of the world that was created by all of those around you when you were very young, from the time you were born,
Your
2, 3,
domestication.
4, 5 years old. Your domestication. That has created this framework that installed the playground for the fears to come up, that become this big monster within us that push us back from actually living consciously with awareness and choosing through our personal freedom.
So, born, you're basically free. Society starts to structure your world for you. You become domesticated, and because you're taking on those points of view because it's what's being told to you of what's true,
Right.
you have no choice but to believe it, really. I mean, you just don't. And so when you believe those to be true, then you build your entire both fear and drive and hopes and all of that on that framework of what people have told you the world is.
Yes.
Which means that if giving the chance, you might not actually, if you were to back up, step outside that framework for a minute, you may disagree with a lot of those things that you actually are running your entire life with.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
All
Yes.
right.
And that's why that first step to personal freedom is awareness.
It's
so
understanding and
it's
seeing it, yeah.
It's really interesting watching people, because as children grow up into young adults, they start to feel like, I really want my freedom. I want to move out. And
right.
then they may get married and they feel like, this marriage, it killed my freedom. I have no choices now. And then they get divorced and they feel like, finally, I will be free, only to find out they still don't feel free, because what feels like it's holding you down are those belief systems, that domestication.
And your own choices.
And exactly, which we'll get to in just a moment as well. So that awareness, recognizing, what am I believing? What do I want to believe? And challenging your mind about your beliefs. Because first you have to look in and you have to ask, what are my beliefs? What do I feel about this? What do I feel about this situation, that situation, that situation? How do I believe the world should work in my world, in my area? What do I feel matters? How do I prioritize certain things?
Which is really hard, because there's that hint that you have, that little whisper that you've had your whole life, that when you believe a certain thing, or when that situation comes up and you choose a certain direction, and there will be a little whisper that's like, you don't believe that, you don't want to do that, but you do it and you think you believe it because you always have.
Yes,
and
exactly.
So to go back and acknowledge and to see that is actually very, very difficult.
It really is, because when you decide to challenge the belief system that you have been under, and you start to question, do I believe this? Does this make sense to me? Where is this coming from? You're going to find that most of it actually is not even true for you.
Yeah.
You drank the poison, you believed the lies, and you became succumbed, basically, to being willing to step into what you believe others want you to be.
Yeah.
And even that is an assumption on what you think somebody else is thinking that they might think about you.
Yeah.
And that is such a way to completely lose yourself and miss out on so much in this life. So often I see people coming in where they will be in a whole entanglement of their beliefs, and it's all based on things they believe other people think, and those entangled beliefs are also false beliefs.
And when you one of the things I've noticed with specifically people that are caught kind of in the web of ideas, you know what I mean? They're spending so much time on all of the variables that go into each decision, every single one, that even when you try to get them to narrow down a single idea, they can't see it, because the only thing they can think of is, but outside of that. It's like you're trying to get them to just one idea, just, do you believe this? And why do you believe that? And they're like, well, maybe, but what's important is so and so believes, and if I don't do blah blah blah, then this other person will be so hurt, and I said I would do it because so and so needed me to. And it's like all of their decisions aren't based on anything short of what they think the world needs them to choose.
Exactly.
I mean, and so they just can't even hold on to the idea of one thought.
Exactly. And we talk a lot in shamanism about how you are dreaming your dream. And most people in life dream their dream while they're asleep. It's almost as though we go on autopilot. Yeah. We don't know how we got to work, but we made it there. We got through the day and can't really name 3 things even that happened because we just did what we had to do.
We react to everything.
And we drove home, and we remember getting in the car and suddenly we're home. Does any of this sound familiar to any of you? That is dreaming your dream asleep. And then there are certain small points that become these pinnacle days of, that was amazing, or that was tragic. And those things end up sticking in the memory while the whole rest of the life is dreamed
just
asleep.
Gone.
In shamanism, we know that the true important thing is dreaming your dream awake. Being able to be conscious about what choices are you making? What are you creating? What do you want to have in your life? And how are you going to do it by being fully awake, fully conscious, fully choosing, fully alive? Life really is art. And to be a master of life is to create a masterpiece.
Yeah. I was just going to say that dreaming your dream awake. I mean, to make your decisions in your life every day awake when you do them, it takes a lot of effort.
It does.
I mean, I think that's one of the things that surprises people is the idea that if you're not just something happens, you react. Something happens, you react. Something happens, you react. And you're at the end of your day, you go to bed and you start the next day and do the same thing.
Yes.
To not do that and to actually go, okay, here's the thing that comes at me. What do I actually want to do? Do I actually like doing that? Will I enjoy myself? Is there something else I could be doing? And doing that for all of your decisions through the day, it actually takes a lot of effort.
It does.
And that's what I think is a big surprising thing, but I really like the idea of making it like art.
Yes, because life is art.
It is art, yes.
And you can even paint something while you're asleep and throw something together. I love abstract art, but if you're trying to do it asleep, it might not be that great.
It looked just like abstract art, because I don't like abstract
But you can create an amazing masterpiece, whether it seems abstract or it's very precise.
Exactly.
Whatever is perfect for you.
Yeah.
The type of art that you want in your life, it's becoming a master of your life. Dreaming your dream awake, creating that masterpiece. It's as though we weave a tapestry together every day that we're alive, and at the end of our life we can look and see, what does that tapestry look like?
It's just like a painting. I mean, you get to, if you really engage a painting, you choose every aspect of it.
Yes.
The colors, and you choose what goes where, and how many trees, and where a house goes, and you choose all of these things, and it becomes your painting that way.
Which is exactly the point of how you create a masterpiece. It's through really controlling your choices. Instead of allowing yourself to just react, instead of allowing yourself to go on autopilot, feeling like something doesn't matter that much, so I can just daydream while I'm driving, or daydream while I'm in this conversation.
Yeah.
Instead of that, it's about learning to fully control your choices.
Yeah.
The first step of that, we've talked a lot, you've mentioned already in this live talk, the pause. The first step to being able to control your reactions is to not react. It's
to not immediately react.
And insert that pause instead. And what that pause does is it gives you back your choices. It gives you back the ability to respond instead of just reacting. Because our brain tends to be a very highly emotional machine at times.
Well, and your first reaction is, I mean, that's what we are wired so that our emotions are the first thing that happens, because that's what has kept us safe, in the past, where there was, when we were out and there was a reason, like an animal or we needed something or whatever, having your emotions be your first reaction allowed you to have access to all of the adrenaline, the high adrenaline, or all of the things that you need to survive when you don't have the comforts of home and kitchens and all the stuff that we have now. But once you come into this type of a world where you're just dealing with people and you're not having life and death choices all the time, now it's about making logical choices, not emotional choices.
Yes. And that's where sometimes fear comes in, because there is that primal drive within us where we feel like we're facing things that could be an enemy, or it could be something that will kill us.
We're gonna die.
And even if that's not the conscious thought, that's what perks up in the back of the mind. That's the voice of the ego that rises, that causes you to want to snap at somebody or cause a little drama, create some commotion, so that you feel like you can escape from whatever it is that feels like it's closing in on you.
Lash out and run.
There are 3 primary keys to being a master at creating the masterpiece of your life.
Okay.
The first one is...
To be the best artist, you have to do what?
Exactly. Awareness first. An artist needs to know what their tools are. An artist is going to first curate and see, what do I have? Am I painting a landscape? Am I doing this on canvas? Is it a portraiture? What am I utilizing? What paints do I have?
Now in terms of a person, your tools are, why do I make these choices? What am I really afraid of? What are the decisions I've made in the past, and why would I want it? Should I change those? That would actually be what I would prefer to do in the future, kind of a thing.
Yes.
Is that about right?
Is this a relationship I even want to have?
Yeah.
And why am I doing things that sabotage it? Or why am I giving myself up and not honoring myself as I stick through it because I'm afraid of loss, but I don't really want this person in my life? Challenging those beliefs. Look at really, what do you feel? What do you think? And without judgment, because this is not a game of, I spent so many years doing this, or how could I have not known, or maybe I've been too harsh.
Or if I do that, if I leave this person, what am I doing to them? I've lied to them and I can't do that to them. And it's like, it's not about any of that.
It's awareness.
It's just about, what do I actually want?
Yes.
And what actually makes me happy? And what's the best for me in the future?
Exactly, because as we mentioned, the 3 false beliefs that are part of that domestication is recognizing, feeling, and participating in that triune of the judge, the victim, and the set of belief systems that was put onto you.
Yeah.
So you have to learn to break free of that, which means learning to see with awareness, what are you judging? Where have you felt like you were the victim? Where is your power really? Where is your light? Because your power is going to rest inside the light that is in you. The true power within you is that light of love. And what is the landscape? Doing a lot of journaling work, or perhaps talking out loud to yourself. If you don't like to write, there's a lot of power in words. Not just thinking it in your brain, because we think in abstract concepts.
Right.
You need to put words to it. That's why journaling's so powerful.
Because you put words, you have to write out words.
Exactly.
Right.
Or formful sentences where you're speaking it out loud.
Oh, yeah.
That puts words to it as well.
Yeah.
So that awareness.
Okay.
And then transformation is the second key to becoming the master of your landscape.
Right.
Because
so you acknowledge it first, so that you can see it. And then the transformation is actually making new decisions.
Exactly. New choices.
New choices for yourself. Realizing that you can be a better version, in the sense of you can actually make decisions that come from your own choices, not the world that was put upon you.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. And the third key really flows in. All three of these are really important to utilize together. The third key is the intent, the mastery of intent. Become a master of what is your intent, what is your energy that you bring into everything, what is your intent that you have that you want in this life. And I would suggest that that always comes back to love, because
Right.
the most incredible, the way that we come back to the energy of source, which is where our greatest power resides, is that coming back to the energy of love. So mastery of intent really equals mastery of love, and the transformation of all energy is possible specifically because of the
Love.
source energy,
Yeah.
which is love.
Love.
So when you combine the transformation and the intent being love, you're empowering yourself with everything that you could possibly ever need.
And that's how you can affect the outside world at that point.
Exactly.
With your intent.
Exactly.
In the best way possible.
Exactly. Yes,
like it.
that awareness that leads to transformation with choices, that leads to the intent, being able to see, understand, and know your intent, which then flows back into transformation of your choices, being empowered with the light of source within you, which leads you to being able to then see the awareness of the landscape that is around you as you start consciously creating your dream, and you start consciously creating everything in your life, and you start being able to come back to feeling that childlike joy, that innocent wonder, being able
Right.
to smile because you're actively a participant instead of just a domesticated being contributing to the illusion. You're creating a masterpiece. And when that masterpiece is created with love, the joy is automatically going to be flowing as well.
And I think the last thing that goes with that, as that kind of encompasses all of that, the only way to do that is you spend time reflecting and understanding, but then when you're making the choices, it's about being in the moment. Mm-hmm. It's not about thinking about the future or what I've dealt with in the past or, all of that. It's about learning to be in this moment. This is the most important moment of my existence because it's the only one I have right now. Focusing on only that moment and making decisions by pausing for a second, processing the information, and then making the decisions in that moment.
Yes, exactly. And I'm not saying that it's easy.
It's so not easy.
Because you've spent however many years of your life,
Right.
most of those, you've probably been experiencing, continuing, perpetuating that illusion
And
that has been who you've been.
Dealing with domestication, man. It's the worst.
And then learning to allow yourself to set yourself free.
Yeah.
It is a lot of work, and you're choosing, what do you believe?
Yeah.
And there's a whole world of options
Yeah.
for that. And when you have your anchor, always is that light of love, that source energy of love. It will light the path. It will start guiding you in the
yes,
right direction,
absolutely.
because you're going to see that light unfolding. It's a lot easier to paint a masterpiece when you're seeing it in the fullness of the light,
Yep.
so that you can know what you're creating.
Absolutely.
Full awareness.
Yep.
You can, and it's good to remember, you really can believe anything in your life. If anybody has ever told you that you're not good enough, or if you have told yourself that maybe you don't feel like you look the way you want to look, or you don't act the way you want to act, or they say you don't have the skills, or you don't have the money, or whatever those lies are, know that those are illusions. There is enough for everyone.
Yes.
And we have all abilities to see ourselves as amazing light, who we are, where we are, making those conscious choices that what you give to the world is something that is from the light.
Yep.
Giving the light of love to the world. When you feel like you're wanting to receive something, the best way to help fill that within yourself is to share love, to share a kind thought, to share with others whatever you're wanting to
Whatever
receive,
you need.
and keeping in mind what would be best for them. It might not be the same belief system that you have for yourself. Learning to honor and to see and to assist others in dreaming their lives consciously becoming awakened, seeing what they want to choose. And keeping in mind, you really can believe anything. You can believe in anything, including you can believe in yourself.
Yeah.
You can start to recognize that you are empowered. You are filled with light. You are literally in this place for a reason,
Yes.
and on this planet and in this body, and learning to really come into the fullness of this moment and taking in that whatever has happened, and it doesn't help to regret it. And whatever is going to happen is going to happen. And the only way to affect and change your life is to fully be present with an awareness, anchored in that light of love, and empowering yourself with conscious choices.
I think that's amazing.
So we hope that inspires you a bit this week. Breaking those former agreements that you had in your life, letting go of the false belief systems. Work on that throughout the day today, either writing down or speaking out loud. Examine what are your beliefs. We're going to continue carrying this forward in some fun ways with our life talks to help you.
De-domesticate yourself.
De-domesticate. Unplug from the machine.
Unplug from the machine.
And
Matrix.
see the truth. See who you are, because who you are is beautiful.
It's perfect.
Yes.
And go to our website at earthandskycenter.com and check out all of our stuff.
Like and subscribe.
Absolutely. See you next week.
Thank you.